Joining me right now, House Armed Services Committee member, Florida Congressman and Army Special Forces Officer Michael Waltz. Good to have you here, Congressman.
Thank you.
What's your sense of what happened?
Well, a few things here. One, the drone was in international waters. I spoke with a number of the members that were at the briefing today, and then the administration also sent folks over to Congress for some smaller briefings. The drone was in international waters. If you understand how the Iranian hierarchy occurs, you don't really have rogue elements out there, and you certainly don't have them using the type of sophisticated air defense that was needed to take down this drone.
I would just suggest that the president was offering them a little opportunity.
That's right. I think that was a diplomatic.
And they didn't take it. In fact, they doubled down and said, absolutely, we shot that down.
That's right. That's what I was getting to. He offered them an off-ramp. They didn't take it. They took responsibility, and now we do have to respond. One thing that is clear with the Iranians, and this has been clear for many, many decades, is they are emboldened by perceived weakness. We've seen that in the past, particularly the Obama administration, and they are deterred by strength. And we have to show strength here, but the response does need...
So what would that strength be? What would that response be?
It does need to be proportional. It does not look like hundreds of thousands of U.S. troops on the ground. We're not talking an invasion, and I don't even think we're talking strikes on the Iranian mainland. You can look at taking down some of the boats that they've been using to attack tankers. You can look at what we did in the 1980s, which is took out some of their oil platforms, which are offshore, off Iranian soil, but will actually accompany and reinforce what we're doing in terms of choking off its oil exports. So there are a number of things that we can do that will show a tough response, but not escalate.
Okay, Congressman, I want to show you a couple maps here. Let me start with the U.S. map. We say that that drone was in international waters. It was 21 miles off the Iranian coast. I believe we do have a map of that. There you see it. So 21 miles off the coast in international waters. However, let me show you the map that was sent to me by the Iranian mission to the UN, and something that was tweeted out by Ambassador Zarif. This is their map right there, and they are saying, no, it was 8 miles off the coast, which puts it in their range, and as a result of that, they had to shoot it down. How do we get to the bottom of this? Can you ever get to the bottom of this?
Well, look, I will trust our intelligence community and our imagery any day. The Iranians have an entire history of deception, from their support to Hezbollah, to Hamas, to terrorist organizations all over Syria and Iraq. So
what a dumb thing to do. Why would they do that now? I mean, well, if this was 21 miles off and they're trying to pretend like it was right there, it seems like it's not really a smart move.
Oh, it's very clear why they would do it, because the maximum pressure campaign is working, and the history of Iranian responses, including in the 1980s and then 2000s, is to create an external crisis. It distracts and unifies their people, who right now are literally rioting on their in the streets because of economic hardship, and it also drives a wedge with the international community, because what they're trying to do is create a narrative that everything was fine until we withdrew from the Iran deal, and that President Trump is actually the one who started this crisis. And many Democrats are buying into that narrative, and it's a bunch of garbage.
Look, I get the sense that this is a president who does not take going to war lightly, does not take any of these strikes lightly, wants to ensure the safety of the United States and United States soldiers. Go ahead, Congressman.
No, absolutely. And one of the things that I'm encouraging the administration to do is to shift the narrative here that this was a White House response to a request for forces. I'm talking about the carrier and the troops that went in, a request for forces from the military and commander in the field to defend our assets, and that's what happened. This isn't warmongering on the part of the White House, and the president has been very clear that he wants to maintain pressure to get Iran back to the negotiating table so that we can get all of the pieces that the Iran deal missed. Its support for terrorism, its missile program, and it's holding American hostages as we speak. There are American citizens chained to an Iranian prison as we speak today. So this notion that Iran was a responsible actor during the Iran deal is just false.
Well, I've talked to them, and just so we understand all sides of this right now, what they say is, hey, you know what, we had a deal, right? And if you sign a contract, it's kind of hard to just like tear up that contract and move forward so easily. I mean, I think if they were smart, they would just say, okay, let's sit down at the table with the President of the United States, who has repeatedly offered that opportunity.
That's right.
And let's work together to get something that actually is a decent deal for everyone, that everybody can feel a little bit more positive about. But they're not taking that opportunity.
That's right. That's right. That's what would be in the best interest of the Iranian people, but not necessarily in the interest of the regime. And the regime is only worried about the regime. My concern from a U.S. interest standpoint is that we go to talks too soon. The economic pressure campaign is working. Oil exports from Iran are plunging. The inflation is out of control. There's unrest in the streets, and we need to not sit down at the table until we have maximum leverage. But eventually, there is a diplomatic solution here. I absolutely agree.
Okay, but absent that diplomatic solution, which I do hope is in the cards, and I think this is a very good opportunity for everybody to sit down and have a rational conversation. You may say that's impossible with Iranians, but look.
Oh no, I don't think it's. I don't think it's impossible. I just think the timing of it. Right now, the Iranians are lashing out because the economic pressure campaign is working. They're desperate. They've done this before. They did this in the 1980s. And we have to remember the reason they sat down in 2012 with the Obama administration is because the sanctions campaign was finally working then. But then President Obama let them off the hook with a bad deal.
So Congressman, they shoot down our drone. What is our response?
Well, I think our response is proportionate, and it takes down some of their naval assets, which we also did in the 1980s, and some of their air defense assets, but we do not go deep into the Iranian heartland, and we certainly do not put boots on the ground.
But do they retaliate if we do that?
No, they don't, because at the end of the day, they know they cannot match us conventionally. Iran looks to hit us where we're weak. They look at pinprick strikes on soft targets, like shipping or like launching rockets at our bases in Iraq or Syria, but they know they cannot match us plane for plane, ship for ship. They are emboldened by weakness and deterred by strength, and that's been the history of the Iranian regime in the Middle East.
Well, Congressman Waltz, thank you so much. It could be a long night here. We're watching it very carefully. Thank you, sir.